My guest on this episode speaks with deep clarity and conviction about what it means to lead from your values and to do so unapologetically. She shares how she has used her power as a Black woman leader to challenge broken systems, uplift communities too often overlooked, and build a legacy rooted in faith, courage, and unapologetic care. You're listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast, Episode 8. To all the courageous Black, Indigenous, and women of color leading in public health, this podcast is your space to turn up the volume on your courage. This space centers your voice. This space celebrates your passion. This space amplifies your courage. My role? To listen, to amplify, and to stand with you in the fight for equity. My name is Dr. Christy McClamrock. I'm an epidemiologist, consultant, the founder and CEO of Courageous Public Health, and the host of the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Each week, I have unfiltered conversations with BIPOC women in public health about the challenges you face, the power you hold, and your vision for the future. We talk about the authenticity, vulnerability, and courage that you bring, not just to public health, but to every part of your lives. Because courage is about action, even in fear. It's about taking up space, leading unapologetically, refusing to be erased, and knowing you never have to do it alone. If you're ready to turn up the volume on your courage, if you're ready to take up space, if you're ready to smash the racist, patriarchal, cisnormative, heteronormative, ableist, capitalistic systems, then let's dive into this brand new episode. Commissioner Dannette R. Smith is a visionary executive leader who has spent more than 25 years serving families, children, the aging population, and people experiencing homelessness. She's led human service departments across the country, utilizing data-driven outcomes and engagement strategies, fostering staff development and community involvement, all with the goal of developing and maintaining innovative, stable, and effective programs. Most recently, Commissioner Smith served nearly 5 years as the Chief Executive Officer at the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services, where she supported 5 divisions: behavioral health, children and family services, developmental disabilities, Medicaid and long-term care, and public health. During her tenure in Nebraska, Smith convened a statewide behavioral health task force focused on opportunities to improve behavioral health services for adults and children, as well as initiated the exploration of Medicaid utilization as a payer for behavioral health services, and redesigned the Youth Rehabilitation and Treatment Center system to include intensive clinical and therapeutic services in the juvenile justice system. While in Virginia Beach, she collaborated with the sheriff's office to provide enhanced behavioral health services in the jail system and provided strategic oversight in the development of the First Responders Initiative to provide behavioral health services in the community with the Virginia Beach Police Department as part of their service calls. In all of her roles, Smith works to build and sustain partnerships and positive relationships to best serve the community. The 2023 recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from the American Public Human Services Association, Commissioner Smith holds a Bachelor's of Science in Psychology from Eastern Michigan University and a master's degree in social work from the University of Illinois, Chicago. She's also completed the Kennedy School of Government Child Welfare Executive Leadership Program at Harvard. Let's connect my conversation with Dannette R. Smith right now. Dannette, it is such a pleasure and such an honor to have you on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I am doing well. It is a beautiful day here in Colorado, and I am enjoying the weather and just taking a day to relax. And I am equally as excited to talk to you. I always like talking to you, but I'm equally excited to be a part of your podcast today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we always have really great conversations. So this is a no-brainer. So why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Dannette Smith. Know Christy through many adventures and just love our relationship together. But I think professionally, I probably worked all over the country, from public health to human services, and now in Colorado as behavioral health commissioner. Mother of two wonderful, wonderful adult daughters, and living my best life. That's how I would introduce myself. Living my best life.
I love that so much. I wish we were all living our best lives. It's like such a great goal.
Living my best life.
Living your best life.
I have had wonderful experiences both professionally and personally, and I recognize that I'm in a space now that I can really enjoy my life and how I want to live the remainder of it, whatever it is. Certainly life isn't over for me. In fact, I think in many ways it might be beginning all over again. So just enjoying my best life. And I hope you are too.
I am. And I feel the same way. Like, I'm 51 and I feel like things are just now really getting going. I'm really getting started. So, women who tell me their age, I say, there is a clock that goes off at 50. Okay, that is different than 49, and it's different than 51. And that clock that goes off says, you're kind of half of a century. And you really have learned a whole lot. And so how are you going to take those life lessons to do something different and to enrich what's to come? I remember when I turned 50, and I swear it was like a clock went off that said, life should be different right now, Dannette. It really should be different. So what are you doing to make it different? So that's why I said I'm living my best life. That's great. So I want to tell a little story before we dive into the questions.
Sure.
So this is a story about, it probably wasn't our first interaction, but it was close to our first interaction. So, I had asked you to be the chair of the board of directors for Public Health Connected, which was a nonprofit organization, that I was working on a couple of years back. And I think Charlotte Huntley introduced us.
Correct.
Yeah, I think that's how we.
That's correct.
How we were connected. So anyway, so we had our first board meeting, and you ran that board meeting, but I had an opportunity. There were, I think, 5 of us. I had the opportunity to do a little exercise, and I think usually in those board meetings, I would have a little thing, thing for us to start with.
You would.
So, I had recently read, and I have this book in front of me. It's the Professional Troublemaker, the Fear Fighter Manual by Lovey Ajayi Jones. And there's this part in the book about orikis. So an oriki, it's a Yoruba word that combines 2 words meaning praising your head and mind. So it's basically like your hype mantra, right? It's a chance to throw humility out the door and really hype yourself up. So I had asked everyone to write an oriki for themselves. And I gave some examples from the book. She presents examples for like Oprah Winfrey, and this would be, this could be an oriki for, each of the Obamas. And so I gave some examples and I said, write an oriki. And I think I read mine first. And I think you read yours next. And there was this line that I will never forget.
Oh my God.
It's so great. Your oriki you said in your oriki, grandmother in thigh-high leather boots. And
I believe I said that.
I am so happy that you said that, because as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, you are so my person. I am so happy to have you on this board. We are going to be friends.
Well, and I am so blessed and humbled that you continue to think about me. And I think what I was thinking, and I'm not yet a grandmother, so let me just say this.
So maybe you didn't say grandmother. Okay, so
that's okay. But the thigh-high boots, for me, represent a woman who's willing to be bold,
yes,
bodacious, confident, and is very comfortable with her personal sexuality.
Absolutely.
That's what I would say to you. And,
yes.
And I am. All those things I am. And, inside of being courageous and doing it. And, I really do have thigh-high boots. So I'll just leave that there.
I love it.
I really do.
Yes. I have knee-high leather boots, but it's time for me to graduate to thigh-high leather boots. So I'm going to be looking for some. It's reminding me after you've had this conversation because, it's just it was so great. And that was such a good group. And we had a lot of fun, talking about stuff like that. Everybody's Origi was amazing.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah,
we got to know a little bit about each person, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and like more than what you would know about a person from a introduction at work, right? From a professional introduction. And I think one of the things that we tried to do was really incorporate the personal parts of ourselves as well as the professional parts of ourselves to really get to know each other. So yeah, no, that was fun. And actually I was so inspired and excited about the idea of an oriki that I ended up writing an oriki for my mom after she died. And I read it at the memorial service at the church. Yes. It was a long oriki, but it had the same kind of, kind of tone and vibe. And sometimes it's like, it's really nice to think about all the amazing things about ourselves, and not just think about them, but actually speak them out loud. So yeah, it was good. All right. Well, let's jump into the questions because I'm so interested to hear what your thoughts are. So, I always like to remind our listeners that bravery is about taking action without fear, while courage is taking action despite fear. Because honestly, a lot of times we do feel fear and we have to do things anyway, despite that fear. So I would love for you to share some experiences from your professional life and or your personal life where you have acted courageously.
Oh my God. It's funny that you talk about the word fear. Because so often when you are in some of these high-profile professional jobs, people don't believe it, but fear is almost like your neighbor sitting on your shoulder because you want to do the right thing. One, that's not only ethically correct, but you also want to do things that are authentic. Yes. And you're always trying to seek that balance. I know when I was in Nebraska, one of the moments that I felt like I really had to be courageous was when we were going through the pandemic in a state that didn't quite believe or understand in the beginning, not toward the end, in the beginning, that the pandemic was real. And how to have conversations across the state with people who have a variety of different experiences and understanding and helping people to be safe. Also, being able to support your staff at the same time of doing that work. And what I found, Christy, is that I was probably giving more of myself in that ability to lead, be able to communicate, be able to influence as appropriate the governor's office on how we should communicate about COVID-19 or the pandemic, how to communicate appropriately. about the vaccinations from Omaha all the way to the western part of Nebraska. And I thought that it took a lot of courage on my part, but also a lot of courage on the part of my staff to be able to be flexible, to be in environments where sometimes people weren't welcoming of the message. And yet, I even feel like through that experience, people gave us an opportunity. I think courage is about sometimes standing when nobody's there to stand with you. And I have found that, quite frankly, throughout my career, where there have been times where it's been just me. And although my staff are there, but my staff are looking to me to kind of be that beacon of light. And I think while I was in Nebraska, that is one of the examples that I would call upon. I could tell you that I'm being courageous in my current job too, but we won't get into that right now. But I think, given where we are in the world, given where we are in leadership, and the ability to lead, you have got to lead with courage, humility, humbleness, understanding the problem of the day, and figuring out where you stand inside of that. Can't be everything to everybody, but what you can do is stand for those principles that mean the most to you and the people you're trying to serve.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I know the whole time I've known you, you always refer to your staff in such a kind, generous, loving, dare I say, way. And that's something that I really respect about you. I mean, you are a leader who really cares about the people that you lead.
I have always cared tremendously about my staff because without them, what I do means nothing. It is my job to have the vision, but if you don't have staff that are standing alongside of you and sometimes in front of you, sometimes they're leading and you're taking the back seat, then your leadership means absolutely nothing to the people that you serve and the people that you're trying to lead. And I have been blessed throughout my career, and I mean this, Christy, I've been blessed throughout my career to have worked with some fabulous people who I have to say have put up with me. I mean, I can be very demanding on how I want things to be done and how things need to look. And there have been people along the way over the years who have put up with me. And maybe they would say, well, you put up with us. Maybe that's true. But I have been so appreciative. I'm more in the space of being appreciative than anything. I feel very lucky to have led some really good teams, smart people who were ethically driven, people who were authentic, willing to learn, willing to teach me being open to being taught and not knowing everything. I've just been very, very blessed. I was having breakfast with a friend this morning, a colleague from Seattle, and we were reminiscing over 13 years. And I was telling him how blessed I am. I've had a wonderful career. And I've worked all over the country with wonderful staff who have been right alongside of me. I'm very appreciative.
Yeah. So it's interesting to think about courage as also about claiming and expressing your power, especially in spaces that don't always welcome it. And I wonder what your thoughts are about how you express and embody your power as an African-American woman doing the work of public health. It's even more than just public health, but public health is a piece of what you do. So can you talk a little bit about that power?
Yeah. So what I would tell you is that I have tried to demonstrate courage and humility as I demonstrate and show my power. Christy, there's no other way to say it is I won't hide who I am. There's been questions asked of me about how did an African American woman make it in Nebraska? I can't tell you how many times I get that question. And what I refuse to do is to not be Dannette. I refused not to be. I am going to be who I am. And you see who I look like, but I come with a great deal of experience, knowledge, expertise, humility, a willingness to learn. I am a good communicator, and in my communication, I have been told is my power. So I use my voice, literally my voice and my presence, to express the power that I need to be able to serve and to be able to lead. And I don't hide it. I did not in Nebraska. I reckon, and I am not in Colorado. At the same time I say that, I will also say that there are people who have a hard time with that and who would like for me to lower my standards, perhaps hide, and kind of shrink. And I refuse to do that, because if I shrink, then I'm not doing what I believe I was put on this earth to do. And I was not put on this earth to shrink. I was put on this earth to do the work of being able to serve other people in my community. And when I mean not just my African American community, but the community at large. And if I shrink, then I give up my power. I'm not prepared to do that. There are days that sometimes I'm not feeling the strongest, but I push through that because I am reminded all the time that I have a responsibility. I've been given a responsibility. I've been given an opportunity to sit in some community spaces and places and tables that many people that look like me, they have not had that opportunity. And I'm not going to shrug it off. I'm going to make it work for the people, everybody that I serve. So I see power as being bold, humble at the same time, and not shrinking. Being who I need to be, being who I am. That's how I see it. And, to a certain degree, Christy, that's courage.
Yeah.
That's courage. Again, it's getting back to what I said earlier. Sometimes you'll stand alone being yourself. Being your authentic self will cause you a lot of times to stand alone.
This idea of not being willing to lower your voice or to collapse or to be small is it's so key, right? It's key for all of us, especially women, and especially BIPOC women. The pressures from outside to be small, to not stand up and be ourselves and say exactly what we think and set clear boundaries and limits and lead with all of the, like you said, the expertise, the knowledge that we have. I mean, that pressure is huge to collapse.
Well, and it's even more daunting in the environment that we're in. Just a little story. My mother was the first African-American, what you would consider in my hometown in Indiana, the first African-American to be an assistant superintendent. And so I had a wonderful role model in my mom who could understand the politics of what it took to be smart and bright, and yet people who did not want her to express herself. And my mother at that time was an educator. She was kindergarten through 5th grade, something like that. And I never saw her shrink in her responsibilities to help her teachers or to help educate the children in our community. I have picked up on that same thing. I am not going to shrink because the pressures say that I need to shrink. Now, here's what I will say to you. I'm very strategic. It may look like a retreat when really it's not. It's really me retooling, realigning how I'm going to get to yes on whatever I'm trying to accomplish. And so sometime I'll take a step back to move forward. And I've had to learn that over the years, that just because you take a step back, just because somebody doesn't want to hear your voice, doesn't mean that you retreat. What you figure out is what's the strategy to move that agenda forward, because people are relying on you. And if it looks as though you're simply retreating with no thought of moving forward, then you're not going to get that goal accomplished. So I'm very strategic. I think I have very good political acumen, and I choose my battles wisely. You know, I'm not going to win all the battles, but I do need to win the wars. And so that means you got to be strategic in how you do it. And it may take you longer than you expected. But there's nothing wrong with taking a step back to move forward in leadership. Even in personal life, you should do that in your relationships.
Yep. Thank you so much for sharing that story about your mom. I think it's so important for all of us to, be bold, be authentic, be courageous for ourselves, so that we can get to that living our best life place. But I think it's also so important for us to be role models for our children, especially our daughters, because it's tough out there. It's tough out there.
It is very tough, but we can't lose the faith. We just simply cannot lose the faith. When I think about what's happening in public health and what has happened in public health, now more than ever, we need women in particular to stand up and to discuss the importance of what's happening in public health. Regardless to whether you agree with the agenda, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the essence of humanity, the essence of children growing up healthy, the essence of being able to age gracefully, knowing that the care that you're receiving, the prevention services that you're receiving are really the services that you need to really promote a healthy life. That's what public health is all about. It's all about promoting healthy living, a healthy lifestyle. And when you are a leader in this work, and certainly in this time, we've got to think of creative ways to get that done. Because what's being challenged right now is our status quo. So how will we continue to help people live, prosper, have a nourishing, good life? How do we do that inside of some beliefs that are rapidly changing? That's where the courage and leadership comes in.
And I think it's also, you're talking about people coming together based on shared values.
Absolutely.
Right? And the details of how you get there, that we can talk about.
Right.
We will talk about, we are talking about, but starting off with, yes, we want to leave our children with a world that is worth living in. Right?
That's correct. Having a sense of value of yourself and professionally, to me, is the word of the day. Without value of yourself, how you see yourself personally and professionally, and I say to young people who have asked me, how have you gotten to this level? I have a strong value system. And that value system continues to ring true through the work that I do. And I think our values are going to continue to ring true to the work that needs to happen now. And without your value system, if you don't have one, or you're not clear about it, you can be led astray. And so, I hope one of the things that your listeners will take away is that having a sense of who you are, having a sense of what you value, it could be different than somebody else's, but what you value and how you act on those values is just so important in how you live your life and how you lead. It's just so important.
I agree. So I love all the things that you've shared about courage and about power. And I'm very excited to ask you this next question, which is about looking ahead. What, Dannette, is your vision for the future? And it can be,
my God.
I mean, it's a big question, but it's, thinking about public health, thinking about BIPOC communities, how you see BIPOC women shaping these futures. And then I'm also interested in what your personal vision is for your future as an African-American woman doing the work of public health.
So I wanted to take off on that question of power because I think we all have power. I think it's how we use it. In my case, I have used my voice, my ability to be able to speak in a way that resonates with people as my power. Certainly the way in which I've worked in several administrations across the country, and I've let my values of what I value speak to who I am as a leader. I think BIPOC women, this is our time. Now, some people will say that's not true. This is our time because there are so many things that we can bring forward in an environment that is struggling right now. It is not the best situation, but out of things that are uncomfortable comes opportunities to do things differently and be successful at a larger scale. And I'm hoping that young women see that as something that is in front of them to challenge what was. Challenge it. It was good for that time, but it may not be good for what we do moving forward. That's the power that I think BIPOC women have. But I think we have to seize it. I think we have to take it. I think we have to stand in it. And I think we have to have an agenda that moves us forward. Here's what I see for Dannette. Dannette is most interested in working with young women to help them do just that. See their power inside of the work that they're doing, how they live their life, how they stand in courage as they do the work that they do. That might be very difficult. That could be public health, that could be human services, whatever. But how do you stand inside of that power to live your best life? Because I think although things aren't the way we might have thought they were going to turn out, it is an opportunity to do something different. And so what I see for myself is, how do I help other women stand in their power? How do I help them shape and share their power in a way that gets results for them? Both for them personally, but also for them professionally. Christy, people always ask me, well, are you different at home than you are at work? I really am. I'm very introverted at home. So when I'm dating somebody, this is probably too much information, but anyway, I am very quiet. So there is an external Dannette, and then there's an internal person that's very quiet, likes her peace, but can stand inside of that peace and enjoy life. It's taken me years to get here. But that's the kind of commitment I have to other women. That's what I see for Dannette doing in the future, is how do I work with other women? Certainly interested in working with young men as well, and have had opportunities to do that and have enjoyed it. But really helping young people, particularly women of color, stand inside of who they are. It can be very frightening and daunting out here right now. This is the best time to learn that skill, how to stand in that courage, how to stand in that power, and to be able to verbalize it, act upon it in a way that gets results. And sometimes that's the frightening piece, is the action part. How do you act on what you know is right? So that's kind of what I see for Dannette, how I see power, how I see BIPOC women. Opportunity, more opportunity than I think we think.
I agree.
The old is being erased, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And so how do we shape a new future, new present and future?
Yeah, I think there are moments when it doesn't feel that way, but I think you're right. I think that the old is is being erased. And I love that you said this is the time for BIPOC women.
Let me just give an example.
Agree. Yeah.
I could be discouraged when I hear about the lack of support toward history around African Americans and African American women, men, doesn't matter. I'm feeling it's my duty to remind young people this is how we got here. That's my role. That is my role, to remind you, even though things may be getting erased, here's how we got here. Here's how I remember it. Here's how I experienced it when I was your age. And I want to remind you that we're all standing on a whole lot of backs that got us here. Every time I talk about my experience in Nebraska, and I had this conversation with several people while I was in Nebraska, and I think even Virginia Beach, reminding them that I haven't forgotten where I've come from. I stand on the backs of a whole lot of people that allowed me to work in Nebraska, in Virginia, in Charlotte, in Seattle. And I know it wasn't easy for them to get me there, but they did. So I think, I want to take some of that negative energy and turn it around and remind us that I feel my responsibility is to remind people, to be that historian. As it may be getting erased, I still can be that historian.
Absolutely. It's, we will never forget.
Yeah.
We'll never forget. And there's been so much power. It's easy to, we need to be reminded.
Yeah.
We need to be reminded. Dannette, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you so that they can learn more about you and your courage. What is the best way for people to connect with you?
Well, they certainly can connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a webpage there. They can feel free to contact me on LinkedIn. I do respond. I know some people connect on LinkedIn and don't respond. I really do respond. And I am so grateful to you. I want to say this. So grateful to you for always allowing me to be in conversation with you and allowing me to talk about the opportunities I've had in my life and to be able to share that with your community and with women and with young men. I am so grateful to you and so humble that you have conversations with me. And so appreciate you.
It is absolutely my pleasure. It is my pleasure. So we'll be sure to put your LinkedIn information on our show notes. So that people can connect with you, because you have a lot to offer and a lot to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And are very inspiring.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a powerful conversation. Dannette reminds us that true leadership isn't just bold. It's principled, value-driven, and deeply committed to creating lasting change. I encourage you to connect with Dannette on LinkedIn to learn more about her and her courage. You can find the links to connect with her on the show notes page for this episode, located on our website, courageouspublichealth.com, under episode 8. Before you go, please take a moment and share this episode with a friend. I know you have people in your life who would appreciate hearing this conversation about courage. If you're listening in a podcast app, you can easily share this episode through a text or directly to social media. On the show notes page, you'll also find the social media sharing buttons to make it super easy to spread the word. All right, everyone. Until next time, stay courageous. Thank you for listening to the Courageous Public Health Podcast. Visit courageouspublichealth.com to find the show notes for each episode and learn how to connect with us.